Okay.
I got slammed today on social media, by the way.
What happened? You make a racist joke?
Apparently, and I didn't know it. I went in early to do a catering order, like a 50 bowl catering order for an office upstairs, and I delivered it and I stacked it in their, it's a co-working space, so they have like a shared fridge or whatever. And in their catering fridge, there was like the first roll was SPJ bowls, the second row was Bud Light, and then the third row was SPJ bowls. And I was like, oh, cool. Like
Bud Light.
I had no idea, dude.
Are you kidding
no,
me?
I don't watch news, Ari. I took a picture and I was like, oh, party fridge. Oh my God. I've been apologizing to people for freaking 2 hours. I was like,
about Bud Light being next to your product? Oh my God.
Yes. People thought I was like selling it at SPJ and that now they're not coming in anymore because I support Bud Light. I was like, and of course, I was on the line, so I wasn't looking at my Instagram, and little did I know, like it was like they were feeding off of each other and I had no idea. I'm over there just like making bowls. So finally, like somebody in the marketing department texted me and was like, are you going to address this? And I was like, what? So I had to issue an apology. I was like, I'm really sorry. I didn't know we were all mad at Bud Light. I don't watch the news. I just took a picture of my bowl. Oh my God. Like, what are the odds?
Crazy.
So stupid.
It's another Friday. This week I did it my way. I made lots of juice and now I feel a boost. Baby say, oh, it's the way I make my juice. Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature.
Oh, what's up, my juice lovers? Welcome to Goodnature Radio. This is your host, Charlie Wetlaufer, with my esteemed co-hosts, the number one and number two business consultant in the world in no particular order, Chef Ari Sexner and Olivia Esquivel.
No particular order.
No particular
order. It just happens to be it goes by alphabetical order.
Goodnature Radio is a podcast where the juicing industry comes together to get help with starting and growing a juice bar, home-based juice business, or cold-pressed juice delivery company. This podcast is brought to you by Goodnature, the world leader in commercial cold-pressed juicers, a juice business consulting, 100% family-owned business. Since it was founded in 1976 by my dad, Dale Wetlaufer. I don't know how you do, Olivia.
I'm telling you, you take on a whole new persona. Like, you just don't know how great you could be until you have hair like that.
I gotta say, I kind of agree.
Built-in sass,
Yeah. For people listening, you have no idea what we're talking about. Go back and watch the video. If you'd like to send us a comment or question by leaving us a voice message to play on the air, head over to goodnature.com/radio. That's also where you can request a free consultation with Ari and Olivia and download valuable resources. Also, we have a private commercial juicing Facebook group called Goodnature Juicing. Just search for that on Facebook, and request to join. We'll let you in, and as long as you're nice, we'll let you stay. All right. Lots of good stuff on the agenda today. Ari just got back from Thailand. We're going to give a marketplace update, a JuiceCon update. We're going to talk about bottling smoothies. Going to talk about Spirulina. I've been in the weeds researching Spirulina lately. We're going to talk about using herbs in juice. We're going to talk about selling to niche markets. We're going to talk about getting ready for summer and warmer temperatures. And that's about it. So we've got a full agenda today. We haven't been on in a few weeks because Ari was traveling. And then last week, when we were about to record, the Goodnature website crashed, which I had to fix. But now we're back. I think once we actually launch the marketplace, I'm going to switch back to weekly again for a while because I want to get the founders of the marketplace companies on and interview them. So we might do like a block of weekly episodes. Then go back to a couple times a month after that. Ari, Let's talk about your trip to Thailand.
It's amazing. I mean, it was
great.
2
Okay,
solid
moving on.
weeks of,
Check.
let's talk about herbs and juice. And no, I mean, Thailand is awesome. I mean, you guys both have been fortunate enough to go. I've been fortunate enough to go twice, and each time it's just an experience, especially this time I was able to bring my son, which was 2 years old, really stressful. And you're constantly stressing about having him in a foreign country, watching out for him and everything, and crazy drivers out there. But overall, I mean, it was just amazing experience. The food, the people, everything about it, except the heat. It's a little hot out there. It's like 110 right now and very humid. Everything else was perfect. Wouldn't change anything.
It gets very humid. Walking around the middle of Bangkok and the humidity is pretty brutal. Yeah, I saw lots of your stories. You're going to lots of markets, looking at the produce.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most surprising thing about the fruits and vegetables over there?
Well, I mean, every time you go there, you find new stuff that you never even knew existed. The one benefit of going during this time is it's extremely hot, but it's their peak fruit season. Like their durian, their mangoes, everything's at peak right out there. So, I mean, just going through and finding amazing stuff where kind of the locals go too, because my wife was born in Bangkok and we met with her brother for a bit. And he would take us to like all these different wet markets where you go down alleyways and opens up and got an amazing market in there and just see so much amazing stuff like red tamarind or snake fruit and stuff you didn't even know existed. So it's awesome.
It's amazing how cheap this stuff is over there too.
Yeah.
I mean, here in the U.S., it's like considered exotic fruit and it's, $8 a pound or something. But over there you can get, how much is a pound of,
I
don't know,
like
longans
mangosteen
over there? Yeah.
Like mangosteens were $1.50 a pound.
Wow.
And
Olivia
you get
can't
mangoes. Everything was like $1 or $2, It was.
Yeah. All right. Why am I wearing blue hair today? I'm wearing blue hair today because I've been researching spirulina and I've consumed too much blue spirulina this week and my hair has turned blue.
I thought you were coming for me. I thought this was like going to be a battle.
Yes. The truth is, I'm sick of Olivia having all the spotlight and the YouTube videos. Every time I publish an episode, and like if you let YouTube pick the thumbnail, it always picks Olivia. It's like, oh, well, here, because she's got this fancy purple hair. So,
hey, it's the algorithm.
We'll see.
Artificial intelligence, it knows what sells.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got money on myself this week.
All right, let's see.
On who is going to choose.
Now. I stand no chance now.
I'll send you a wig, Ari. I've got a couple more. I'll send you.
Hey, Ari, can I just ask Ari about one story that I saw that he did in Thailand? One of my favorite ones that you did was the lady in the market that was actually pressing juice. She had and then she was adding salt, which I was like, gosh, I'm such a ding dong because, we add salt to some of our juices to bring out either like some brightness or some sweetness or whatever, but it's not something that I typically use at the smoothie bar. And so just watching her kind of use it made to order, I was like kind of inspired. I was like, there's like some smoothies that I could be throwing a little bit of salt in to bring out, certain flavors. But I almost wrote something like, oh, I don't know. Were the wet loafers the first ones to do cold pressed juice? Or is it this little old lady in Thailand? But I held my tongue and my allegiance to good nature.
No joke. I mean, when we were selling juice machines, Asia in general, well, I mean, Japan kind of became a big market. But in general, places like Thailand, Southeast Asia, they never really bought many machines from us. There are a few in every major city out there, and then when I travel over there, and like you said, you see the little street vendor just hand pressing juice and selling it for like equivalent of maybe $1 or something. Like, all right, I get why they can't spend $15,000 on a juice machine.
Yeah.
You know, it's it's mostly, if a juice bar does open use our machine, it's mostly influenced by the more Western world style, like fancy juice bars with bottled juice and stuff. But you can get plenty of sort of hand pressed tropical fruit juice all over Southeast Asia pretty cheaply, which is awesome. I really like it.
Yeah.
Okay. JuiceCon update. I have some news. This time I have real news to share. Not like last time where I was like, my update is I have no update. I toured a venue 2 weeks ago here in Austin that I think will be the venue for the next JuiceCon.
Woo-woo.
It's awesome. It actually has like a demonstration kitchen in it, like where it has chairs and a commercial kitchen. Like it's actually built for chefs giving demos. And it's got a classroom. It's got a room where you can set up for speakers. It's got a whole huge room we can use for vendors. It's got multiple smaller rooms you can use for workshops. It's even got a little kitchen studio, which is set up for photos and video. A separate little kitchen. So I was thinking it'd be cool in there. Maybe we could even do a workshop on how to take product photos and juice photos and stuff or something like that. Or maybe actually even hire a photographer and let people bring their packaging and get photos done of their packaging, you know, something like that.
That's awesome.
Which is cool. Just negotiating with them on price. They asked for a pretty high price, a little bit out of our budget. So if they agree, then we're going to finalize it. We're looking at the dates of April 13th and 14th, 2024. So a year from this week. It'll be on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And yeah, so we're getting very close to finalizing it.
That's so
So
awesome.
mark your calendars, everybody. If you want to come to JuiceCon, mark your calendars for Austin, April 13th to 14th, 2024.
I just write it down.
Yeah, we just figured Texas is kind of nice because it's central.
It is.
Direct flights from everywhere. And I live here, so we can just ship stuff to my garage while, you know, we're getting ready for the show instead of these venues always want to charge you extra to ship stuff there ahead of time and for storage fees. And then you need someone on the ground to receive the stuff and sign for it. Ends up being very complicated. So if this works out.
Juice destination too, you know?
Yeah.
It is. Texas is number 2 behind California now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get all the Texas people to come. California, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Florida's a direct flight, 2.5 hours. New York's direct flight, a little bit longer of a flight, but still direct. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty good if we can make it work for a budget. Let's see. See, I already feel like this blue hair is part of me now. I don't even.
I'm telling you, it's.
Yeah. You should bring that to the negotiating when you talk to the venue.
Yeah,
negotiate the
Yeah.
price.
Yeah, you should. It's a good negotiating
Hard work.
tool.
true. Be like, look, you don't want to say no to me. You think you want to say no to me? You don't say no to a person with hair like this.
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm capable of. All right, we've got a voicemail from our friend Kristen, who's left us at least one before, from Earth Candy in California, Kandee. I love that name.
Hi, Goodnature team. This is Kristen from Earth Candy in California. I've asked a question on here before. Actually, I think a couple, but you guys are so helpful. And I had another idea. I do blended bottled smoothies, and this question is maybe for either Ari or Charlie. I'm looking to do
Not
mass
Olivia.
production of smoothies. We're starting the farmers market, and I think that it's going to ramp up our production requirements quite a bit. And right now we're hand blending everything on a commercial Vitamix, just the quiet one. So we can only do 4 smoothies at a time. So I'm wondering if you guys have any suggestions on how to mass produce smoothies.
It's a great question. I see discussion about this all the time on the Facebook group. So Ari, you want to take this one?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's kind of terminology that a lot of people get tripped up on. I think in the US, people consider smoothies with like some kind of frozen element. Temperature has to be perfect. Whereas outside, it's more of a puree incorporated with a juice or slightly thickened with a whole blended item incorporated. So that's number one. I think if you're adding ice, referring to that smoothie, you can't do a shelf stable. I've heard people do it, but I've never had success. It kind of dissolves and separates right away. But for the second part, where you're incorporating purees into juices, it works great, especially with exotic produce. A lot of times that's mushier in texture and doesn't yield a tremendous amount with cold press. So being able to blend that and incorporate a tiny amount into juice to get that flavor, but not really that thick a product, actually is a great option. In terms of production, there's a lot of ways to scale up. If you're doing a large amount of juice or products, you could use food processors, and they have a larger machine. It's called a VCM, vertical cutter mixer. That is more like industrial grade, but it's just a larger food processor essentially. And then if you're not at that level yet, there's larger Vitamixes like the XL.
Mm-hmm.
You can do about a gallon at a time. And I mean, just think about, you want to get that product smooth, so you don't have to incorporate everything together, just your pureed product in there first. Add a little bit of the juice until it gets enough to be moving around. Don't go at such a high speed either, because then it'll kind of mess up the beautiful structure of the cold pressed juice. So you definitely want to go slow and steady on that for sure.
Well, and I just was looking up her, not that she asked me, but I'll give my 2 cents in case it's helpful. But she actually uses bottles. So you're right. It's really hard to keep things shelf stable and a really good consistency when you've got a thicker puree going on in like a traditional smoothie cup with a straw. When you start to put those in a fridge or a freezer to hold, they just start separating. And I feel like you can't shake them like you can in a bottle. But she's actually got bottles. So like, they look like cold pressed, like what we would put a juice in. So I know for me, when I have large orders of smoothies, I do use my XL Vitamix. I think that's really helpful. So if this is something you're going to be doing a lot, obviously it's an investment, but I would look towards that. A lot of times I will just order a base of one and then get one or two, maybe an extra container. So as one person is blending, if you can't afford 2 of them, get an extra container, another person can be prepping. But you should be able to, the beautiful thing about doing it in larger quantities, you actually use less food cost, right? Because you can scale it easier. It's not always, as you know, like just double a recipe. So just get the consistency you want, like Chef Ari said, and you should be able to store them pretty easily in that bottle. I don't know if you're taking like an igloo cooler with you, or a lot of times you just ask the farmer's market if they can give you access to electrical. And I like to buy those like $500 white reach-in coolers that you can get like at Lowe's or Home Depot. And you can just stack them that way. And you can really transport it with a good heavy dolly in and out of a vehicle. But that's what I've used in the past.
Nice. I saw that she also has a product where she cuts up the fruit and just sells it in a cup with the lid so people can make their own smoothies, which is pretty cool. That's sort of the, what's that national brand that does that?
Daily Harvest.
Daily Harvest, yes. Yeah, that's more of a subscription model thing, but I think that's a cool product idea to offer everything prepped for a smoothie that someone can buy and just make their own smoothie when they're ready. So it's fresh. Pretty interesting. We got a funny blog comment the other day. All right. So this is on the blog article called Understanding Shelf Life of Cold Pressed Juice. The entire article is explaining how to extend the shelf life for up to like a week maximum. And this is the comment on the article. How long does the juice last if not open? Mine is 14 years old. I have 2 cases. Too funny.
They must have hired Ari for that one. Ari can get you that long shelf life.
It's funny.
Well, it's not open. I mean, it might be fine.
I just think it's so funny. We get all the time, we get these questions as comments on the blog that are the specific question we're answering in the article. They just don't read the article. They see the headline, click the article, scroll to the bottom, leave a comment, and just ask the same question. It's crazy. It's like you're taking all the time to actually leave a comment, but not the 2.5 minutes to actually read the article.
I do that. I read the pictures and I read a comment. You know, if the article didn't have pictures, I'm just straight to the comments. I don't have time for this.
Oh my God.
It's funny. So as part of the marketplace, we're taking a hybrid approach. Some of the companies will be third-party merchants on our website that sell direct to the customers. And then some items that are non-perishable and have a long shelf life and are important items for juice bars are going to be stocking in-house. So one of those items is Spirulina. So I've been doing a ton of research on Spirulina. And it's crazy how every time you research anything in the commercial CPG industry, it ends up being kind of weird, right? And Spirulina is definitely one of those where, okay, I've ordered like 10 different brands of Spirulina and poured them all out next to each other, like tasted them. Some of the stuff smells awful. Some of the stuff is
like
dark.
Fish food, right?
Yeah, fish food. Do you know why?
No.
It's literally animal feed.
Oh.
Some of this stuff is grown in China in wastewater and fed to animals because it's high in protein. So they grow this stuff as animal feed, and then when these juice bars start like using it in smoothies, and it becomes this sort of high-end supplement product, they start packaging it as being good for you. The stuff's literally grown in wastewater, like swamps, because it's algae, right? And then there's other stuff that's grown. Basically, all commercial spirulina is grown with urea, which smells like urine. They're only supposed to use a very small amount, but some use too much. And there's this one bag I opened, and I smelled it. I was like, "Whoa, that just smells like pee."
Oh my God.
Most of it comes from China. Most of it's like cooked until it's brown, but there's the brand we're going to stock is bright green. It smells like algae, which I actually like the smell of algae. Like, it smells very natural to me, and when you mix it in water and taste it, tastes like you're drinking fresh like algae water, which I actually like it. But I had my brother smell it, and he was like, "Oh, that's terrible." So I guess it depends if you like that smell or not. But then what's more popular with our customers is the blue spirulina, which is when they extract the phycocyanin out of the spirulina. So the phycocyanin is the blue part that has a lot of the nutrients, but not all of them. So actually, when you extract the phycocyanin, you're actually losing a lot of the nutrients in spirulina. But then you get this nice bright blue color, odorless, tasteless thing. Instead of full spectrum spirulina, which kind of smells like algae and tastes like algae. So I understand why juice bars use it, but you actually, if you use the full spectrum of the green spirulina, you actually get all the benefits of the blue plus more. So it's actually better for you to use the green. But then, it doesn't look as pretty, and it can smell a little bit and taste a little bit stronger. So I guess that's the deal with spirulina. But even these expensive spirulina brands, when you actually do the research, it's all coming from either India or China. And it's just this mass-produced total garbage. So, and I'm told, I've been researching to see if this is true, but I'm told that any certified organic spirulina is kind of a hoax, because you can't actually grow it organically in commercial quantities. You need to use urea, which is a chemical. So it's not actually organic. But when they ship it from China, China labels it as organic. So when it arrives at the port, labels as organic, the USDA just certifies it organic. They don't actually inspect the facility or how it's grown or anything. They just kind of have this deal that if something comes in to the port as organic, they just pass it through as organic. So it's all very questionable, very kind of shady as usual when you start to actually research something.
Wow. That kind of makes sense though with the certified organic, because I mean it's usually grown in a lake, and with certified organic farms, it's all testing the soil over and over again. And imagine in a lake, you probably have barely any control to the outside elements and changing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow.
Yeah, so it's questionable whether this stuff could pass USDA certification if it was certified in the U.S. This is what I'm told. I don't want to get a cease and desist letter from any organic brands here.
But
so
Charlie, did you find some that you liked that will be offered in marketplace that you felt like was a good brand and good quality? And
yes, yeah,
okay.
It's great. Stuff is really good.
Good. I can't wait.
Yeah, I don't want to announce it yet, but I'm going to have it in our warehouse pretty soon.
That's
I'll have
awesome.
it in our warehouse within a few weeks. Same with matcha. I found a really good Japanese matcha, organic and conventional, that we're going to store in-house. Found a really good acai vendor, which they're going to be a third-party merchant. We've got our glass bottles coming in about a month. They'll be landing at our warehouse. Got lots of stuff going on. I'm very excited about it all.
I think that's so important because really, like from a operations standpoint, like at least I don't have the time to research all of those things, right? I research things as they come in. Right. And, I don't have time to do a deep dive into Spirulina. Like I do sort of I don't want to call it superficial, but I'm looking to see at the brands. I'm meeting the reps, and I'm talking to them, and I'm testing them before I stock anything. I'm testing them in recipes. I'll, sample it out to guests. I'm looking at cost and all those things. But what an advantage to have honestly, this is just pure. This isn't sponsored by Goodnature, but like what an advantage, what an advantage to have you guys really kind of vetting all of these products for us, because we're on this end, on the operations side, like pushing out and vocalizing that we have these great products and that this is a healthy place to come. But really there's only so many hours in the day, and there's so much misleading out there in labels, as we've talked over and over until we blew in the hair about. But
good one.
Thanks. But, it'll be nice to just be able to go to the marketplace and know, like, this is a good brand. It's been vetted. It's been tasted amongst, several other competitors, and this is best quality, best price. I think that's going to be a game changer for the industry, honestly.
Yeah, that's my goal. I mean, I can't promise I'm going to get everything right, but I'm trying my hardest. I ordered about 10 different brands of matcha as well.
Yep.
And, I even got samples sent direct from Japan.
That's a big industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, huge.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many different growers in Japan and
different grades
associations
of matcha.
Of growers. Yeah, different grades, different associations that pool their stuff together. So it's kind of hard to determine what's true and what's marketing. Mm-hmm. But I met this guy that imports stuff in the U.S. under his brand, and he goes to Japan. He meets with the farmers and all this stuff. So I feel more comfortable buying from him than direct from Japan because he's done all the research. He's supplying tons of other companies with matcha. Like he's importing a lot of this stuff. So he's done the work. And like still I got his stuff, compared it against other organics and other conventionals, and his stuff was the best. So, I'm doing my best. I'm not like lab testing anything. I'm kind of taking these brands at their word on most of the nutrients and stuff. But, there's only so much I can do there. But I'm at least testing it for like taste and color, and I'm being conscious about price. Our juice bars, our customers are all running businesses, so they can't pay $300 for a pound of matcha. You can buy matcha for that much, and it's great, but you can't run a business on $300 matcha, so lots of things. But
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
it
It's
is.
a lot of work.
It's exciting though. I'm excited to grow it, to grow the marketplace. I think. I mean, I look at some of these other online businesses like webstrontstore.com, right? That's a popular source for buying stuff. But you go there and what you see on the homepage, you see like concentrated syrups for flavoring stuff. You see barrels of WD-40 oil for your restaurant. You see whatever. It's not like targeted for our customers who are looking for high quality premium stuff. And another similar thing would be like you can go online and shop for Whole Foods, or there's what's that new like premium online grocery?
Thrive
Market, yes. So I kind of see Goodnature as the Thrive B2B market for our industry. That's kind of how I'm viewing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll start to come together.
Awesome.
There was a question on Facebook, Ari. Any tips? Well, I can't read this, too small. Any tips for using herbs in your juice? Thyme, basil, rosemary. What do you pair with? How do you incorporate, grind and press? Let it infuse into the juice. Use it whole. What's a good ratio in ounce per pound of fruit? So many questions. And that's from someone named Lavelle.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect time to start incorporating herbs, you know. Spring definitely has the widest variety of herbs you can start messing with in terms of adding it to juices. So the biggest tip that I responded with that is the stem. There's tons of flavor in there. You don't want to be discarding that. It's very expensive, but it in most cases has a lot of flavor. So if it's a harder stem, woody stem, sometimes when you have like older rosemary or thyme or something like that, you want to try to avoid that. If you have that, you're going to need to pick the herb because then it will give you a bitter flavor when it's actually ground and then pressed. So I like to grind and press for the most flavor extraction. Unless I'm growing the herbs, it's not cheap. Usually they're a little pricey. So use a stem, you know, especially if it's a green herb or a green stem. So I like to experiment tremendously with all these wide range of herbs. You know, too often people just use, you know, just mint. Mint's great, got great flavor, but branch off, you know, try some, you know, even basil. Basil is pretty common, but not very often used, but has great flavor. There's a lot of different herbs that you might find cheaper. You know, like we talked about going to the various international markets. This is like such a huge saving in money. Like you can go buy 2 ounces of like dill for $2 at a standard market here in the US. You go to an international market, you can get almost a pound of dill for the same price. You know, and just something simple like that. There's herbs like kaffir lime leaves is like the most amazing flavor. You could buy it at an international market for fairly cheap and it holds perfectly in the freezer. Like you can hold it in there. There's along those lines, there's like lemongrass too. But also some savory herbs, you know, rosemary, oregano, and maybe savory blends, you know, more vegetable based juices. You could try to incorporate that. But there's a whole world of herbs you can mess around with. And don't be afraid of the international markets to kind of do your experimenting. You might be able to, rather than going through Purveyor for your herbs, you can go there and probably buy enough in one trip for a week or two at a time, since you're only using such a small amount. You know, I use maybe 0.1 or 0.15 ounces per 16 ounce juice, you know, for a decent flavor. Nothing too overpowering, but yeah, definitely incorporate herbs, especially during this season.
I would say we, at Southern Press Juicery, we use a lot of, particularly as watermelons start to come online, We do one called Southern Summers, which is the simplest juice we have. I'm not one to do simple juices, but sometimes there's beauty in simplicity. But we do just a watermelon and rosemary. And we actually steep the rosemary instead of grinding it, which I think is just another alternative. And we kind of get a little bit more out of it because we can steep in one and then do another batch and steep in that one as well. Another one that I really like with watermelon is basil and lime. I love that combination, and I think lemongrass pairs really well with that. But don't start buying your watermelon too early. This is something we were looking at because we had a catering order earlier this week. We were getting these terrible tiny watermelons for like $7 a melon. And we're kind of waiting for our farmer that we usually use in the spring and summertime to start coming online. But we will start to get here in the next month huge watermelons that are locally grown, and we can make a batch of 21 juices out of one watermelon. I mean, it's just the output is just incredible on it. So just make sure you're not going too early, but you're starting to see some things come online. And if you are getting seasonal fruit like a watermelon from a purveyor, ask him to bring you a sample so that you can cut into it and see how juicy it is. They're usually more than willing to do something like that. But yeah, starting to look for watermelon, more citrus. I know blood orange was hot a couple of weeks ago. Everybody was doing that, but kind of getting away from more of the fall and winterish and starting to look for more bright, pineapples, mangoes, stuff like that.
Yeah, with herbs too.
Mm-hmm.
Lemon verbena.
Lemon verbena? What's that?
That stuff is amazing. It tastes like citrusy herbal lemon combination. It's fairly cheap too, and it's really powerful. Use a little bit of that, and like thyme and rosemary work great in sweet, like you mentioned with the rosemary. I mean, rosemary and watermelon is a great combination. Like in lemonades, there's I think in Spain they have a lemonade that's made with rosemary. It's awesome. I think they do half lemonade rosemary and half beer. I've had at a few Spanish restaurants, and it's awesome.
Sounds intense.
Yeah.
Really interesting. A couple things came to mind while you were talking, Ari. Yeah, like the price of herbs. If you go to a regular grocery store, they're like packaged in those little plastic packs, right? For 1 ounce or 2 ounce. But if you go to the Asian, there are these giant bunches. And I think dill specifically, because there's popular Asian soups made with a lot of dill. I know my wife makes this Vietnamese soup that's like a dill soup. She probably uses half a pound of dill in the soup.
Yeah.
And then chopping the herbs. I used to just pick the leaves off cilantro, but then I realized, like you said, you can just chop up the stem and it smells and tastes just like the leaves pretty much. And it has a nice little crunch to it, even if you're cooking with it. And then I made a note here. The kaffir lime leaves has got to be one of my favorite herbs.
It's the best.
Yeah. And it freezes really well, like you said. You can even buy it frozen at some places. And man, if you just take a kaffir lime leaf and you crack it and smell it, it just smells so good.
Yeah.
I think
it's a lot like that lemon verbena. Very similar.
All right, you have that one juice recipe, which is one of my favorites of yours. What do you call it? It's like a tom yum soup juice recipe.
Oh, the Thai cider.
Thai spicy cider.
It's the cider with all basically Thai ingredients. It's got galangal, like their version. It's looks like ginger, but it's really peppery. Got a Thai bird chili.
And then you have
lime leaves.
A lemongrass in there, kaffir lime leaves. But that's one of my favorite recipes of ours because when you lift it to your nose, it just smells like tom yum soup or something. Then you taste it and it's sweet from the apples, and you have pear in there, right? Apple and pear. Just so good. Anyone listening, check it out. Just go to our website and search for Thai spicy cider. You'll find it. It's one of my all-time favorites of ours.
Thank you.
Olivia, you sent me a screenshot of a LinkedIn post. I can't find it now, but basically it was believe it might be one of our customers promoting their business, their juicing business, and they specifically target hotels, right? Like their whole sort of market.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I can't think of the name right now, but it was a lady from London, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn just to connect. And I think we have a call coming up soon, so maybe I can follow up. But just from what I could tell from our interaction, her juice business focuses primarily on targeting luxury hotels in the UK. And so I kind of wanted to talk to her about whether, I don't know the answer, whether they're pasteurized or whether they're not, or whether it's different in the UK. But I just thought that was such an interesting sort of way to look at it, is just going all into one industry. You know, if it's big enough to be able to do that and sustain you, that's great. But yeah, she targets just luxury hotels. And there's a lot of them in the US that I see that do that. They feature, you know, shots or juices, particularly in their spas. So if you're looking, you know, for, people are always asking me about wholesale, you know, that's obviously you want to look at local markets too, but I think looking at luxury hotels is a great way. And, you know, they would probably take a smaller batch. You know, they may not need 21 of 5 different flavors, but maybe can you do shots for them or something? We get a lot of orders also for wedding parties, for like, you know, day of weddings. So connect with your local hotels and just see if you can be an offering on their vendor list. A lot of times they'll do welcome baskets. You know, if there's a wedding party like in Greenville and they're staying maybe at the West End, they'll put together a welcome basket of cool local Greenville items. And usually they'll offer a Southern Pressed Juicery shot or something like that. But I just thought that was a really interesting targeted market.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, working in a few luxury hotels, like what a lot of people don't realize too is, I mean, labor is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times they're union or they got to pay their employees top dollar, which is a lot. So having that ability to have a fresh juice, being able to sell it in their room service, amenities, banquets, without the labor, but being able to split the profit is an amazing option for them for sure.
Yeah, I would say,
That's a
Olivia,
great
like
idea.
you mentioned, the laws are different over there.
Mm-hmm.
You can just make raw juice and sell it to a third party.
I figured.
Saying there's a company in Toronto called Juice Concepts, and they make juice for Four Seasons and other hotels and other businesses. Same kind of deal where they just kind of make it on contract. Because in Canada, you also don't need to pasteurize raw juice. But Ari, what's your feeling on, like, if you make 10 gallons of juice for a restaurant and deliver it in bulk, and then they put it on their menu, how, like, is that, are you going to get in trouble for that?
No. Oh, well, are you talking about in terms of like sanitation?
Well, I just mean the wholesale raw juice laws.
Well, because you're responsible for the juice up until you're handing it off. So, I mean, if it's accepted in certain areas in the U.S., I'm sure it's accepted.
Right.
You know, even without a HACCP plan. You know, but if you're responsible for the juice up until the point of that transaction, you know, where the hotels are buying it from you, you're handing it off to them. You're not. They're accepting the responsibility, and that was kind of a loophole for a while that a lot of juice bars were doing. Not really a loophole, but with delivery, you know, whereas like Uber Eats or other apps like that, where they'd buy the juice and then deliver it, they were able to do that because they were responsible for the juice up until the point where that driver picked it up.
Yeah, I know if you wholesale bottles of juice, that's definitely setting yourselves up for a lot of risk. But I've definitely seen a lot of juice companies, even in areas where they don't allow wholesaling of bottles of juice through grocery, allow you to sell bulk quantities of juice to restaurants and bars and stuff. So I think you can kind of get around the raw laws by doing that.
Yeah, you definitely want to make them aware of that.
Yeah.
You know, before you just sign a contract and start making product for them. You know, and just work through the process. Locally, you should be able to produce a product with a HACCP plan, because the HACCP plan, it gives you all these traceability factors if there ever was an issue. And it even involves when you hand off the product, they're keeping track of the temperatures, So that traceability piece, even if it's not required, I would do a HACCP for sure.
Interesting. So anyone listening, if you need help with this, talk to Ari. Talk to your local health inspector local health department before trying any of this.
Can I caveat here for a second? So I had a client in town from the Valley in Texas, and he was doing a site visit. He's worked with Ari, Mark Harris from Texas, and he asked me when he was in Greenville with me last week or the week before if I had heard of any virtual restaurants reaching out, and that there was some that were reaching out to him in Texas. And I was like, Mark, what are you talking about? And he said, Olivia, these people are trying to pay me up to $1,000 a week in acai bowl sales. I think it was bowls. And they're basically, it's some obscure name of a restaurant, but they're allowing it to be delivered under his name. And I was like, I haven't heard about this. Like, I personally don't do Grubhub through Southern Press Juicery. I don't do Uber Eats or any of those, because I personally feel like I lose control of quality once it leaves my hands. And then at the end of the day, they're delivering something with my label on it, and it could be melted, it could be hot, it could be ruined. And I don't know, I'm too much of a control freak for that. But lo and behold, today I received an email from a virtual restaurant asking me if I would be interested in working with them, although it would be under their brand. And so they pay for all credit card fees. They pay for, there's no commission. It's just my straight, flat out regular fee. Guaranteed $1,000 sales a week, which is, significant. But it would be branded, I guess, under their logo. And so, I haven't responded to them. I haven't dug any deeper. It just seemed to be that two instances in 1 week came up, and I wondered if you guys had heard anything about that.
Yeah, I know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
So these are these sort of delivery only is that they'll oftentimes what they'll do is they'll have a bunch of products and actually list the same products through a few different restaurants, market like different groups of people. It's actually kind of a battle going on internally right now with like Uber Eats and Grubhub and stuff, because it's kind of hurting the reputation of the delivery companies, because people think they're ordering from one restaurant, but then they're getting stuff delivered and they realize that it's the exact same item that's on a menu of another restaurant. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird thing going on right now. I don't know how it's going to play out long term. I kind of feel like it's just going to be kind of a temporary thing personally.
Yeah.
I saw a really cool YouTube video. There was that went into detail explaining that entire process, of the virtual restaurants. And he did research in his area, and he tracked down something like, I don't know exactly, it was something like 14 different restaurants that he's never heard of or anything in this town. And they each had a fish sandwich, and he ordered 14 fish sandwiches, for one from each restaurant, and ordered them and spent like a couple $100 and found out they were all the same. But
yeah,
but he goes into detail after that, explaining the whole process behind it. It's different. I don't know how I feel about it, but
I know Uber Eats is trying to kick them all off because it's really hurting their reputation.
How do they make the money? Because at least from the introductory email I got, my price would be the same. They pay for all the credit card fees. They don't raise the price, and they don't take any profit or commission off of my end. So I'm wondering if it's like a subscription based, or I just wonder where they make the money on.
That's a good question. Either number one, they aren't making money on your items, but they're making money on other stuff. Or number two, maybe they're just losing money because they're funded by investors, just trying to get a bunch of recurring revenue going. So it looks good on paper, and they can raise more money and try to grow the company. I don't know. Does seem weird though.
Yeah.
but it sounds like a good deal for you.
I don't know. I'm kind of too much of a control freak, but I just wanted to bring it up in case other juice bars were encountering it, in your cities.
I would say the weird thing would be if you start seeing people in your local area saying how these acai bowls from this other restaurant are so good, and they're actually just eating your acai bowls.
Right.
That'd be so weird, right? And then once they get a bunch of customers buying through them, then they come back to you 3 months from now and say, actually, now we're only going to pay you 70% of your price.
Right.
And you feel like you have to take it because they're selling all these acai bowls. I don't know.
Yeah, seems fishy to me.
Does seem suspicious. Just at least told you they take a 20% fee or something, then I wouldn't be so suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Seems too good to be true. I just realized I have to come up with a pro tip.
Ooh.
Do you have one, Olivia?
Maybe on spirulina.
I have one. I'll go first. So, we've seen an increase in volume at our restaurants just because sun is out. People are, wanting less lattes, more smoothies, more bowls. So just this week alone, I had to go in because I noticed we were running out of things and things weren't being prepped enough. And there's always sort of this weird time between when fall is starting and then when fall ends and spring and summer comes in. And there's never, I've tried to nail it down to the exact date, but you just can't. You kind of just have to feel it out in the flow of the restaurant. But at least for me, it has definitely been time this week to go in and change all of our pars, which means, how many of each item we need to have prepped. So I've rolled out our, spring and summer prep list, closing list, opening list, and making sure that we have enough because I'm finding that they're running out of kale at the smoothie bar. We ran out at like 9:30 this morning, and so they need to be prepping more and washing stripped kale and having more bins of that prepped the night before. So if you're struggling with running out of things, take a look at what your closing list, your side list, your opening list, and all your prep lists look like. I do have mine available on Goodnature. .com/live. You can actually find mine on there. You can download them for free, but it's the time to start changing that now and bringing more people on your staff, which I know is really difficult right now, but what you don't want to do is have a long wait time. So right now I've changed all of my staff to have 3 people on at all times, even at opening, because there's always something to do, whether they're bottling juices or restocking or helping guests or running things out. So ramp up now before you start drowning and start getting bad reviews on long wait times and bad service and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the jump on that too is I think have a cleaning schedule too. Something that comes up during spring or when the temperatures start rising is check the refrigeration units. A lot of times those start to overheat and be overworked, so make sure the filters are fine on that. I know a lot of times when it starts warming up, they could freeze over and then you'll need to defrost them, or you could lose a lot of product that way. That's important to think about too. Yeah,
and I actually, on that goodnature.com/live, I actually have a log that you guys can download for refrigeration, and so that should be part of your, like for me, I have 4 refrigerators and freezers up front. There should be somebody checking it in the morning, somebody checking it midday, and somebody checking it at close. Because if you come in the morning and you see that your fridge is out of temp and it's too high, you can at least start to backtrack and say, well, at 7 p.m. last night, it was on. So, you can at least start to figure out, is it just that it's it's overheated and you just need to unplug it and let it thaw out and clean it or whatever. But that's definitely something that should be in your daily routine that your staff and you should be doing and checking. So if you need a form like that, you can download that for free.
Make sure the compressors aren't frozen. That used to happen all the time in Vegas. When I was in the kitchens, it would rain one day and the next day it would get hot and humid and all the compressors would just freeze over and then shut off. But the big thing, your refrigeration unit, it shuts off in the middle of the night. Quickly take the temperature of the juice. If it's below 41, you're good. Take it out of there, put it in over on ice or whatever option you have, you basically have 4 hours to get that in there, and back below 41 degrees. So always keep an eye on that for sure.
Ari, was the list, was that your pro tip, or do you have another one?
Yeah, I got another one. Another one. Besides from the herbs and all. Yeah.
Besides from the 13 pro tips I gave today.
No, I think I was, my pro tip is inspired by Thailand. Okay. So I got a lot of thinking about it, and
it's too
the
hot.
cool thing about
too hot. Sorry, go ahead.
What nice. Your hair's all perfect still. No, I think when I was a chef, I used to work in a few higher end places, and I think for a period of time I used to be a chef for the villas at a casino, and this was all
the
really
high
wealthy
rollers.
people.
Yeah,
and like billionaires and stuff. And I used to cater parties for them, doing events. One thing that always stuck out to me that was really odd in general is like they would do like birthdays, weddings, all this stuff. None of them seemed like a really amazing party, like having such an amazing time. It was like one of those weird things where you get whatever food you want. You're in Vegas, you're partying with all your friends, and it wasn't like an amazing party. It didn't seem generally really over the top happy, like if one of us had that experience, and going to Thailand, my wife's from there. So we were able to go to some of the non-tourist spots and some of the villages and stuff. And you'd see a lot of the families, where it's a third world country, in a lot of spots where there were kids with no shoes or not enough to eat and all this stuff. And you'd see them having the time of their life, running around and playing with their families and over the top happy. Whereas I might not be that happy in that situation, 110 degrees. I might not be smiling as much, So with that being said, I think if you're going to join the juice industry, you got to be passionate about it. You got to have a passion for this industry. It's extremely important to have a passion for what you do and then figure out how to make a living after. If you're trying to join the juicing industry because it's in the news now or it seems popular and you're trying to make money, you're going to save a lot of time and money by not doing that.
Yeah.
So that's my pro tip is find something you're passionate about and then figure out how to make a living off it. If juice is your calling, then go for it and have that passion carry you over the struggles, because any business you're going to have struggles and the passion's there to carry you over that. And that involves your employees. It's tough being picky with employees, but I would take passion over experience any day.
Wow, that was so good.
I had 3 weeks, I thought about it. No, I'm kidding.
I'm fired up now. So Ari's pro tip is don't be rich. You will be sad.
Yeah.
No.
Give your money away.
No, that was good. And I've always said the same thing where we get lots of leads and potential customers asking me, what have you seen the companies that are successful? It's always the passionate people that were juicing long before they owned a juice company, not the people that read about how Organic Avenue in New York just raised $10 million and they're like, oh, I want to do that. I want to grow this high-end fancy brand of juice and sell to celebrities and stuff. It's always the super passionate people. And I think part of it is, number one, things are going to get hard sometimes. And if you don't love it, if you're not passionate about it, you're going to give up because it gets so difficult. You're going to feel like it's not worth it and you're going to give up. Number two, when you're passionate, you're very convincing. When you meet people and you're trying to make partnerships and you're dealing with vendors and you're trying to get somebody to invest in your business, you're very convincing when you're passionate. You're not so convincing when you're doing it for the money. Everybody can kind of read through it. So that's great. Pro tip, let's see. I guess, yeah, just doing all this research for the marketplace. I would say even the popular brands and the brands that people regard as the best stuff, when I've been comparing it, is no better than all the other garbage out there most of the time. And it's just turns out that they spend a lot of money on marketing. They have good branding, a good company story. But I would just say don't just buy into the expensive brand of something because it seems fancy and has good marketing. I would say maybe actually compare it to some others out there, and you might see that it's not actually any better than the stuff that's like 50% of the price. A lot of it actually comes from the same supplier. So that's one of the other things I've been learning, is that when you trace stuff back to where it's actually coming from, a lot of it comes from the same place. It's like the same supplier in California, private labeling all these different brands, or the same company in Canada sourcing all the adaptogens. It's like it's all coming from the same place. So just be skeptical, do your own research. Or you can let me do it for you and just buy everything on the marketplace. I guess that's my pro tip.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway. Great.
Never really thought about that. I mean, you go to a lot of high-end restaurants and you find where they source the products. It's like, we get these tomatoes from this specific farm in this area, or we get this herb or spice from this farm in this specific area. It's all like one-offs. It's never it's never a production facility.
Yeah, or you go to a sushi restaurant, like, yeah, we fly our fish in every day from Japan. Yeah, I know. You're buying it from the same supplier as every other sushi bar in 200 miles from here. I get it.
From Cisco.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Seriously, though,
Yeah.
All right. Great episode. Great to see you guys. We'll have another episode in a couple of weeks. I think marketplace launch, I'm targeting April 28th, FYI. That's 2 weeks from now. So I'm targeting, and Olivia's acai bowl course launch is coming shortly after that, maybe a couple days later, because the course is done. I just wanted to make sure we can give people a place to link to and buy the acai and everything from the course before we launch. So we're kind of launching it all at the same time. So it's going to be an awesome late April/early May for Goodnature. Super excited about it.
It's another
All right.
Friday.
Thanks, everybody.
This week
Bye,
I
guys.
did it my
Thank you.
way.
Peace out.
I made lots of juice, and now I feel a boost. Baby say, oh, it's the way I make my juice. Pressing fruits and roots. This week I did it my way. Baby say, oh, now let's have some fun. There is nothing greater than Fridays at Goodnature.